Welcome to episode 6 of Talking with the Organizers, presented by Antler River Poetry, formerly Poetry London, this week featuring Poets in Pajamas reading series with Shannon Wolfe and S.J. Stout. Thank you, Shannon and S.J., for joining me this evening.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, thank you.
So, Poets in Pajamas is a twice-monthly reading series live streamed through Facebook and produced by Sundress Publications, an online nonprofit literary press collective founded in 2000. And I wonder whether each of you would say a word about Sundress, about Poets in Pajamas, and about how you first got involved back in, was it 2016?
Yeah, I guess I'll go first because I'm the noisy one. So Sundress is amazing. First of all, if you're watching this, you should go check them out because they do like an abundance of work in the lit community. They do like chapbooks and all that stuff, but they also do these kinds of readings. They do workshops all the time. They're free, so they're a really great resource. And I got involved with them, let me see, like 2 years ago when I first went to a residency on the farm, which I know we're going to chat about. So I went to that and it was amazing. And at the same time, I applied to be a social media intern for them. So that was a great experience. For 6 months, I worked really, really closely with Erin Elizabeth Smith, who is the founder or amazing leader. And it was just a great experience getting to know the ins and outs, seeing all the kind of the working cogs and all the little side projects that they do that might go missed normally. So things like the wardrobe, which is basically where we highlight women writers, and we kind of hand select a certain collection each week, and then we tweet about them and all these things. So all of that good stuff. And then at the end of my internship, Erin told me that Sarah Clark, who formerly had been running this with another colleague, Anna Black, had decided to step down, and did I want to have a go at Poets in Pajamas? So that's how I came on board, and that was, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months ago or something. So I've been doing it. We each take one monthly reading. So I do the first one, which is like usually in the first week of the month, and then SJ comes along in the third week and does the second one. So it's lovely work to do, and we get to work with some really cool people. Over to you, SJ.
Yeah, I was actually a student of Erin's in my undergrad. So I was at the University of Tennessee, and Erin was my poetry professor back in the day. And I think it's a testament to how Erin community builds, that she, we've kept in touch over the years, and she knew that I wanted to be more involved in the poetry community. I did a master's degree in literature, and I was in a literature space that was not in a creative writing space at all. And she knew that I missed it and wanted to be involved. And that kind of like empowerment that she gives people is something that I think is just like a model for any kind of literary citizenship, like what that looks like. Yeah, she's good at like putting trust and ownership to people so that they can kind of take something and run with it. And I think that's really an incredible strength of hers. So that's how I got in with Poets in Pajamas. Sundress has always also been in the background. When I was a student, Erin had a workshop at her house before Sundress existed. This was in 2012, maybe 2011. And she had a workshop at her house, and it was just a weekend. There was another person from my class there. There was someone else from the community. It was just sort of a ragtag group of like 5 people. And it was the best weekend ever. And I remember that time, she's like, I think I'm going to get some land. I think I can make this happen. And it was like that kind of like that little seed that I found really inspiring. And it grew obviously into Sundress. So that's been incredible to see it grow and have all these little facets and nooks and crannies, as Shannon described.
My favorite phrase. Yeah. She's like genuinely the best.
Yeah, I mean, so naturally over the course of these conversations with organizers across Turtle Island or Canada from coast to coast have discussed that sort of community building and how that's integral to poetry communities very often. And I wonder whether you'd elaborate a little bit or infoliate what it is that Erin Elizabeth Smith does so well that that allows people to come together?
I would say one is that she is always seeking out like diverse voices. So like she really tries to make a place for underrepresented people to come together and either publish work or have their say. So we have like a monthly reading series that isn't Poets in Pajamas. It's an additional reading series, and it's usually 3 people, and they're always people that are like, you know, non-binary people, people of color, trying to give them a place that maybe they wouldn't have got onto a platform before, to give them like a starting point. And then it's always those same people that I see 6 months down the road that are doing a really cool reading somewhere else. And I'm like, oh, yes, amazing. And yeah, they publish just fantastic work that is, again, from a really great array of voices. So that I would say was the main thing. And I just also think like the personalness of it, like she replies to every email, or she has someone reply. It's not, you know, a submittable reply all. And as well with the staff, like I feel like I really, really know her. I've met her one time, like we met at the residency. She's a great lady, but we email all the time. I text her. I have a book coming out next year, and I texted her for advice about like contracts and stuff because I had no clue. And she willingly like sat there and talked to me about it and helped me figure out which company to go with and all this stuff. So yeah, she's just like very personal. It's like an intimate feeling, even though it's like a really big, amazing organization with so many different kinds of voices. Yeah.
And
I don't know if you have anything to add, SJ.
I would echo that. You know, I would say she's very intentional too about bringing in different perspectives and voices, but she's also very good about not micromanaging. So everyone feels like they have a place to kind of grow. And she's also, I mean, this is like a fan. No, man, I'm just like fangirling over here. But I think there's also a lot of like just radical acceptance of meeting people where they are, and not wanting to change, push, judge. That is never ever on the table, you know. I think when folks encounter Erin, and I think that ethos like hopefully carries through the organizing.
Yeah, and you can see it in the way that we took over Poets in Pajamas. Like she gave us the opportunity, and she hasn't been like, "Hey, you're part of Sundress. What are you doing?" She's like, "Hey, how are you guys going?" And we're like, "Oh, we're gonna do this," and she's like, "Cool." Like, do your thing. So even though technically this is her baby, and the baby of people that came before us, so like they're obviously Sarah Clark, as I mentioned, and Sam Slaughter was actually the founder, and then Anna Black too. They all served, and it's been running for, what was it, 5 years now, 2016. Yeah, she just makes us feel like, hey, it's your thing now. You're good. Like, own it. You do whatever you need to do to like make it a thriving little community within a bigger community.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I guess the Academy for the Arts, that was founded on a farm in Knoxville, Tennessee in 2013, could serve as like a locus, a geographical locus for for Sundress publications. Have you both been to the farm, or have you done workshops there to the Academy? And what's that space like? And yeah, I wonder if you could like verbally like recreate it to some extent, or offer a sense of it.
It is.
The door is on the right as you come in the building, yep. And then the hallway, and then
yeah, it is absolutely beautiful. So it's called Firefly Farms. Erin and Joe Minerick founded it in 2013. They literally built it from the ground up. And they have animals galore there. So there's sheep, there's outside dogs, they're amazing. Chickens, ducks. I think they might have more animals since I've last been. So I went in, let me think, it was in the middle of the pandemic. So it was, I think, December 2020. So my experience was probably a bit weird because obviously everyone was like keeping away from each other and we weren't doing workshops and stuff. But again, another testament to Sundress that they thought about that and still managed to keep the thing going and open for everybody. And yeah, you get there, Erin welcomes you in, shows you the kind of the lay of the land. There's like 45 acres, which is insane. And you get to feed some of the animals while you're there, which is like a nice little treat. And I stayed in the main house. And then there's also the writer's coop, which is kind of like a little shepherd's hut thing up in the acreage, and you sleep up there and you like fuel yourself with like a little stove, super chilly and cute and cozy. So yeah, I was down in the main house. It's really stocked and perfect so that you can just focus on writing or reading or whatever your project is. And they also have a vast library. I don't know if this was the same when you were there, SJ, because it was a little bit before me. But they have a huge library of fiction, nonfiction, poetry, everything you could need. And all the books that they feature on the wardrobe, as I was saying, the women authors are all there. So you can go through those in as much detail as you want. I really wanted to read everything while I was there. But yeah, and I got tons of work done. I was there for a week and I got like my whole manuscript revised, and it was just incredible. And you meet great people too, because there's normally other people there with you. But yeah, SJ, you're much earlier than me. So.
Yeah, it was much the same though at that point. Whatever year it was either the first or second year it existed, but they still had the library. So that was one of the first things. Jane the donkey was there. So
the donkey when I was there. No, not that I know of. She may have been off somewhere holidaying or something.
I'm gonna choose that interpretation for her absence. But yeah, it was good because the farm work really is like, oh, like, could you put the chickens in at night? And like, if you want, you can collect the eggs. It was pretty low maintenance. It wasn't, you're not a true farm hand when you're there, but you do have, Sundress, the whole principle, I think, behind a lot of the things at Sundress is that the more hands-on activities you do, the more that fuels your writing. So there's lots of opportunities to, cook, go foraging. Erin forages. When I was there, she organized just like a little informal bonfire, and everyone came to the house, and we had food, and we had, we were burning, there was fireworks at one point, I think. It was really good. Yeah, good time. And it's not too far away from Knoxville. So if you are a little freaked out about being in the woods, you're not really more than like 15 minutes from downtown. So you can escape.
I can confirm you can get to a Domino's pizza in 9 minutes. But yeah, it's in an Appalachian holler, so it's very rural and cool, but you're super near Knoxville for sure.
Very cool. I wonder whether each of you would say a word about what makes for a great reading, and whether, given that Poets in Pajamas is, I think, entirely online, whether there are any techniques or means of engagement you've noticed which connect particularly well with an online audience.
Yeah, I'm going to keep going first because that's who I am. Yeah, I think engaging readers are people that really feel confident in themselves or in their poetry. They probably have rehearsed a little bit, as we like to do. And yeah, the ones that I found the most engaging are the people that, I don't know, feel like they know their work, like inside and out, like they barely have to look at the page because they're like, I know this poem and I'm performing it a little bit. Great pajamas helps because Poets in Pajamas. So we've seen some really different like vibes. Like we've seen people in like a unicorn onesie. And then last week, I think Irene Cooper had like silk pajamas, which was very classy. And she actually was a really great example of a great reader because she had, and this is like going a step beyond, she had printed all the poems she was reading for the reading into an actual book. Like she had physically printed off a book. And she had, I think her daughter, Madeline Cooper, had made a bunch of amazing images for the book. So
I popped into that reading. It was gorgeous. The illustrations
gorgeous.
Were
so she flipped through and was showing us as she went along. And that was great because it was like a little prop to draw the eye in, really keep you focused. And they were just gorgeous. So yeah, that's one weird specific example. But I think just knowing your stuff and feeling confident in your words, because obviously you're chosen, so your poems are amazing. It's just about like feeling it for me.
Yeah, I would say the same. anyone that takes pleasure in where they are and what they're doing is going to be successful in the format, and everyone's going to enjoy that. And so it's the people that, you know, like they want to go above and beyond and have like a prop, or, you know, there's some people that perform more regularly and they sing, like there's been singing, which is super captivating. But anyone that just is enjoying themselves, you know, whatever they bring to it, however they do that, it's going to vary, but as long as that's there,
they're all great. They're all great.
They're all, yeah, there's never been a bad, I've never ever, you know, walked away going, oh no, what was that? You know, that just doesn't happen.
Genuinely, the worst thing that can happen is just a bad internet connection. Like,
yeah,
that's the only thing that can stand in your way. They're all so talented and amazing.
Yeah.
And after each reading is a question and answer period, also live streamed. And I wonder what makes for a generative or engaging question coming from the audience, or perhaps either of you as moderators. What gets conversation going? And have you noticed any trends among the questions that seem to be most resonant for the poets that you bring through?
Yeah, I think a lot of the time it's really just people kind of thinking into themselves as we do and thinking like, what do I want to know from this person so I can get their energy? So the ones I always ask as moderator are maybe not super exciting, but they're kind of open-ended questions. So I always ask, what are they reading right now? Because that tends to make them smile a ton and talk about really great stuff. And I also have been asking about the pandemic and how it's affected their role in the lit community, how they're writing, all that sort of stuff. So those tend to be good, like starter ones as the questions roll in. But I've also just seen really nice things from people that are obviously there to watch their friends, and they're super excited and they're like, tell me about this thing. And I'm like, I think you already know about this thing, but I think it's nice you're asking. Yeah, lots of really good stuff for sure.
Yeah. Like there's never really been a bad Poets in Pajamas. There's really not bad questions. People ask all kinds of things. I like the ones that, you know, you can tell that the question is responding to what the person just heard. So they're kind of thinking, oh, you said you're writing in a 6-line structure. What about that? Like, what are the limits and affordances that that's given you? And like, what about this form, or what about this image? You know, like that kind of keying in and responding to what they're hearing, I think is always like nice and thoughtful. But, you know, like Shannon said, I think it was last week or last Irene's reading, someone said, I have a question. How amazing are you? And it's like, like that was a great question too.
Yeah, I really liked that one. I also just love when people quote from the poems and stuff as they're being read and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, me too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's something we encourage throughout is, you know, if you hear something that you like, type it in the chat as well. And I actually think that's super helpful to the reader. They can go back through and they hear what's resonating with people, what lands. And that's actually, I think, extremely valuable feedback.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I personally really like that too, as a poet.
And speaking of lands, I wonder whether you'd say a few words about your thinking through land acknowledgements in your position as a host, a position that's perhaps complicated by your being online, although of course you'd be broadcasting as hosts from wherever it is that you're situated in the universe. Yeah. What do you think? How do you think through this question of land acknowledgements, which seem to be ubiquitous before readings?
Yeah, I think it's like super, super vital, obviously. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm from England, so I won't speak too much on it because I'm a foreigner. But yeah, I think it's really important to like respect what came before you or what might still be residing alongside you. I really respect that, you know, Antler River made that change themselves. And I think that's really cool. I know Erin personally is very into highlighting Native American writing and all of those sorts of things. So I think it's definitely something we should be considering adding for ourselves as for the base in Knoxville, if there isn't one already. And I think SJ actually went and found something for us, which is really cool. But yeah, I think really, really important to do. And I think we were saying before, last time we spoke, SJ and I, that we already are kind of doing the walk because we're trying to make sure that we speak with BIPOC voices and provide platforms to people who are underrepresented. But we could be doing more in terms of talking the talk. So like slapping it on the website and making sure we're piping up alongside other people for sure.
Yeah, there's no reason that we aren't doing it. So it's a matter of like, oh, we can make that change. But this is a galvanizing.
We need to email.
We have no reason.
Get it on email.
Yeah, the new email that's going out, like we can make that decision of having that so that we're at least initiating that acknowledgement and then opening the door for like, if the writer wants to also, include where they're, zooming in from. As well. But like you said, sundress is kind of the locus. So I think that's a starting place for land acknowledgement.
Lovely.
Very cool.
And I know that you've got, forgive me if I mispronounce these names, but Tomiko Bayer and Petra Kuppers upcoming. And I wonder whether you'd say a word about each or either of them, and we'll direct the online audience towards them, towards Poets in Pajamas.
For sure. I'll let you go first this time because you're ladies first.
Yes, Tomiko Bayer is coming up next. They, in addition to doing a monthly newsletter, which I think is really interesting, that looks like it's focused on intentional living and meaningful change is the theme of that newsletter. They also have 2 publications out with Alice James books.
Jealous.
Yeah, and those collections, I'm looking it up right now, make sure I get the titles right. Those are Last Days and another one. I think the most recent one was Last Days. And
We Come Elemental, right?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
So they'll be with us. And they actually have a land acknowledgement in their bio. From Wampanoag and Pawtucket land. So our readers are already ahead. Yeah, of us.
And I think she's the 17th, right?
Yes, this Sunday.
Very exciting. Come along, everybody. And I have Petra Kuppers. So again, we take week by week. So Petra is on November 7th, and that is always at 7 p.m. East Coast time. And you just pop onto Facebook on the Poets in Pajamas page and it'll pop up on a live. Petra is a disability culture activist, a community performance artist, and a poet and writer. And I'll just mention, because I think it's really cool, her 3rd poetry collection, Gut Botany, was named one of the top 10 US poetry books of 2020 by the New York Public Library. Like, dang, very cool. So yeah, come along, join us, whoever is watching, and see these amazing people for sure. And there's more to come. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you both so much for your time this evening. This has been a great chance to glimpse what you've got going on there with Poets in Pajamas. And this has been episode 6 of Talking with the Organizers with co-organizers Shannon Wolf and S.J. Stout. Thank you both again.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.